Thank you. Allow me just one moment to just make a comment about Constable Wynne. Constable Wynne, may you rest in peace. When the St. Albert Steel Junior Hockey Club moved from Whitecourt, they left behind a penalty payment of $200,000 to do so. $200,000 can divide a community. Use it to lower the taxes was the cry on one hand. Council chose it, however, to use it as seed money to incubate more community events, community gathering. In 2015, we will now see a Service Place Eek Festival led by Rob Lallisher, a music festival led by Barry Bailey at Seven Hills, and a Night of the Artists festivals led by Phil Elaine. Council has a duty to help the community by nurturing such innovation by these leaders, and the theme of today's speech is community. My thanks, and then I'm going to talk about environmental progress, economic development progress, and social master plan progress. Then I'm going to touch on some specific budget highlights, and finally I will cover some regional stuff and do this over the next 25 minutes. Welcome, and I'm proud to stand in front of you. For the first time, I have read a State of the City speech, and therefore without charts this year. I thank the Chamber for providing this opportunity and the leader as the meeting sponsor today. I thank the young and the old alike for continuing the community building that everyone contributes to, and I thank my council colleagues. Thanks to Councillor Hughes and Councillor McKay who are not attending today, and thanks to Councillors West Broadhead, Councillor Heron, Councillor Tim Osborne, Councillor Gilles Prefontaine in attendance today. You serve well. I thank the region, the province, the federal government, the many service clubs, and the school systems who all collectively build our community together. We all say thanks also to the uniformed personnel who provide help, who provide safety, peace, security, protection, and freedom. And Chamber, I'm also pleased that you already introduced the federal, provincial, school boards, and regional representatives who are here today. Thanks to each of you in the region who serve. And on behalf of the entire community, thank you to all city staff, under the great leadership of our city manager, Patrick Draper. Chamber board, members here today, Chamber staff, thanks for all you do. And always a thanks to my wife for her continued support during my time in office. Ladies and gentlemen, some context as I now begin to cover the details of my speech. In a Canadian Gallup poll in 2011, Canadians shared that the following three drivers existed as fundamentals to local urban life. Number one, social comfort where people can meet and socialize. Number two, the community should make you feel safe, comfortable, and welcoming. And number three from that Gallup poll, an attractive community needs parks, green spaces, public art, tree-lined streets, and safe trails. And frankly, that sounds very much like our St. Albert. And in a recent poll taken in our community through 6,000 interviews, residents similarly shared the values of the importance of a small town feel, the importance of place, the importance of green spaces, and the importance of trails and the river. Wherever we go, we are told in different ways that we must never lose track that cities are not structures. Cities are people, and people want these social and environmental pieces to make it feel like home. This leads me to speak of the need to continue with building human capital or social capital. That's an element of Council's priorities. It manifests itself in our ongoing commitment to social gatherings and building upon new events that I spoke of earlier, or helping expand some of the long-standing events, such as the farmers market. Let me explain further. 10 years ago, round numbers, we had about 50 annual events in our community. Today, that number is about 100 and growing. New to us is Service Place in its current form, Riel Park, the Botanic Park, multiple new downtown events. The Grain Elevator Park is new, fundraiser walks and runs on the running trails are increasing. Lions Park is upgraded, and now we have art walks. Whether it be block parties, youth groups such as BAM, Youth Rotary, or a hospice building initiative for the terminally ill, the people of St. Albert continue to deepen their commitment to community. Much of this is a subset of the social master plan. Council's commitment to a historic, creative, and active community plays itself out into the future, as we've given approval to a new bike park, a youth festival, and aggressive plans to build the parks and trails on the west side of Lacombe Park, in Northridge, Erin Ridge North, Riverside, and soon Jensen Lakes. Additionally, Council has provided land and zoning support to the school systems. The school systems, by the way, are the community's largest employer, with 2 new schools scheduled for construction to begin soon. In summary, on the cultural and social pillar side of things, we need to continue to invest in youth, invest in community gathering, and invest in the various other elements of our social master plan. Within the environmental pillar, Council's statement is that we will cultivate a green community. 2015 will be simply a year of continuous improvement, which follows an aggressive decade of a $30 million Riel Park remediation, blue bag introduction 5 years ago, waste bin implementation, pickup implementation, organic program introduction, water usage reduction, and the essential elimination of pesticide use, and more. 2015 will offer low flush toilet grants, the opening of another stormwater outfall upgrade, which is an upgrade of another one of the 35 stormwater drainage pipes that drain stormwater into the Sturgeon River. Now, while I'm on the topic of utilities, I'd like to address briefly the issue of utility rates, water, sewer, and garbage. While the utility rates were historically amongst the lowest in the region, there was not enough money in the kitty or being collected to pay for long-term maintenance. We had choices to raise taxes, to go into debt, or to raise utility rates. We were running out of money, contrary to what you may have heard. Administration has been warning us for years, so Council made the bold decision in 2015 will now see us beginning to collect money at a sustainable rate. The future decades with the current policy are now sustainable financially. Other environmental news is that I'm pleased to share that after an aggressive 10 years of catching up, the urban forest condition of missing, damaged, diseased, and dead trees is nearly caught up after a long backlog. Still a lot of neighborhood trees to go, but progress has been remarkable. Council also provided additional funds to help tackle the daunting battle of black knot disease on public property. Finally, environmentally, we are exploring options of creative building forms and community greening initiatives that are new, bold, and creative. More on that as it unfolds in the future. A busy year ahead in the area of the environment. Now, a switch to the economic development pillar. Now let me say this. Nothing should overshadow the great work that the city, the chamber, the community, and the development industry has been doing on this front collectively, clearly an approach of collaboration. For all of this work by many in this regard, Council is grateful. Allow me to pay special thanks to the Chamber and staff, City Manager Patrick Draper and Guy Boston for their unwavering leadership. Our strategic plan states that we are to cultivate economic prosperity, and what does that mean looking ahead? Let me begin with a couple pieces of data. First, housing starts. 2010 to 2014, we averaged 200 single-family housing starts per year, and the 25-year average has been about 300. For your information, the population growth has been flat at 1,000 people per year for 50 straight years. So what we're seeing is a shift from single-family homes to multifamily homes. Single-family has declined and multifamily has increased, keeping us at a constant 1,000 population increase, but with a different housing mix. As I said, fewer single-family and more multis, meaning apartments and condos. Now, building permits were essentially identical in 2014 to 2013 at a $205 million number for the year. That building permit data in 13 and 14 is identical to what it was during the boom time a few years ago. 2015 has the potential to be another solid year, even though we know all the highs and lows of the economy. Personally, I don't see any metrics to suggest any concerns, and that bodes well for business. Solid growth, no boom, no bust in 2015. Non-residential development is going to be particularly interesting to watch in the next few years. North Riel Park is essentially full with very little non-res to develop in Old Riel. Campbell Park North is also nearly full, so only modest development there. ALCB and the empty lands around Apex Casino will be the biggest area of activity in 2015 in Campbell. So commercial is where much of the non-res growth will occur in 2015. With St. Albert Trail now full all the way to Erin Ridge Shopping Centre on the east side and Smart Centre on the west side, Melcor has seen that opportunity. It is now developing commercial to the north of the Smart Centre, that area some still refer to as the Walmart site. Landrex is continuing with plans around King of Kings Church, and Cameron Developments will continue to fill up the Erin Ridge Shopping Centre with Costco as an anchor there. Filling up that area will occur quickly over the next few years. We are grateful to new property owners of Sidex, Cape Construction, and Averton for purchasing significant land holdings in our community. Purchases here around the Enjoy Centre, in Ville-Giroux west of Fire Hall 3, join Great West Life's large land purchase just off the Anthony Henday, south of the Enjoy Centre, as now major players in the future. We're also seeing the non-residential area of the old Holes site filling up quickly as the new owners shared that they expect to see 30 stores, such as Nouveau Dental and Hicks Fine Wines, in that complex to be essentially filled in 2015. For some of you, economic development comes in the form of housing, so let me comment on that sector. New housing will be seen in the following areas: possibly Sidex at Ville-Giroux west of Fire Hall 3, Botanica at the old Holes site, Amicon, the old Grandin Mall, will start to see low-level condo development, Riverside, which is new houses now west of Lacombe Lake, Erin Ridge North, east of the Erin Ridge Shopping Centre, Erin Ridge North, east of King of Kings Church, Melcor's Jensen lands, west of the Smart Centre. Dirt will continue to move and roads built in that area in 15. Genstar's Lacombe Lake Estates, east of Ray Gibbon Drive, will see more homes. Northridge will essentially build out and fill up in 2015, and Averton Homes, east of where you're sitting today, has a small residential area. So a diversity of housing, locations, and housing type, which bodes well for housing prices, for supply, and for builders. When it comes to non-residential development, while some would hope that we would run around frantically and try to bag an economic elephant, realistically, our steps will be solid, yet modest in 2015. In 2014, our bagged elephant was the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Control Warehouse. So in 2015, the results will be modest light industrial and modest commercial. Again, no boom, no bust. So Council in 2013, Council approved the purchase of 2 land parcels on our boundaries at the farthest west edge of our city boundary, totaling 170 acres. That land is for 25 years from now, as the city manager brought forward 2 long-term land purchases that will be a remarkable windfall a generation from now for this city. In 2015, Council will hear from staff the results of work done on turning red tape into green tape at City Hall, a review of all processes for development. I sincerely commend staff on such tremendous progress in the last 5 years, and this review takes us to a leadership position in the province. The Chamber used to hear and speak of deep concerns. Much of that has been addressed, whether it be legal, planning, engineering, permitting, council barriers, staff shortages, and more. All that stuff needed a review, and my guess is the Chamber Board is not hearing much negative anymore. Indeed, the opposite is likely true over the past couple years. A city is a center where any day of any year there may be encounters with a new talent, a keen idea, a bright mind, or a gifted specialist. So also on the economic development agenda, Council has given its support in this regard to 2 committees, a committee to review and propose an incubation strategy to supplement or support the business incubator in Nabby, and additionally, a smart city initiative to deepen our brand as a green and creative community. Finally, on the economic development front, and perhaps most importantly, Council will need to decide how it will support development to the west and southwest, as there are significant financial resources required to build the sanitary sewer, a project called Project Number 9, or the Northwest Interceptor. This is a $25 million project to install a good old-fashioned sewer pipe to allow for capacity to help spur development in South Riel, help Amacon, help Avenir, and help St. Albert Sports City, and aid the development of the employment lands. The city would collect that money in the form of levies if the city were to spend funds called front-ending. We are working with developers to see who's in and who wishes to spend what. Doing nothing could result in slower development. Doing it all could put the city in a high-risk but a high-reward situation. The economy could weaken, developers could take advantage of the opportunity and flip their lands after we raised expectations, or sit after we spent the money. Worst case is that we spend the money and no development occurs for years. $25 million is a lot of money. Council must decide the city's role. Council must be thoughtful. Council must make a decision. Now, related to this, Project Number 9, are the employment lands, 617 acres. This is the next Riel Park, or the next Campbell Park, or the next something park. Today it's made up of many landowners, meaning landowners today who are unwilling or unable to develop at this time. Today it's an undefined employment park. Today it's an unserviced park. Today it's barley fields. Not even a name. Even though I have floated the idea of Venture Park, we do need V's. Today Ray Gibbon Drive is the only link to that park, a road that the province will have the responsibility for, and we've begun the advocacy already for widening it. If the city runs servicing, does it mean that the landowners will flip and hold, develop, or just sit on their properties? Most of these landowners are not developers, and we must work with them and help each other with win-win solutions. Over the past 10 years, the value of lands around Ray Gibbon Drive has increased substantially since Council approved the funds to build Ray Gibbon Drive. But there has been no tax return since building that road as of yet, and only modest signals of development being contemplated on the west side of Ray Gibbon. Glass half full Project Number 9, or the sewer, will trigger development. Glass half empty says it may trigger higher land values and slow down development. Economic development innovation will require bringing landowners to the table who are willing to invest. Time will tell. High risk, high reward. Let me now cover off other infrastructure, or built environment as it's called by many. I'm not nervous, honestly, I'm not. I'm not used to reading speeches. Let me say, when it comes to built environment or infrastructure, again, let us not forget that real cities are flesh and not concrete. A reminder to us all, people choose to live for quality of life, as quality of life nurtures today's consumers and gives birth to tomorrow's consumers and families, but it is important to discuss future infrastructure. This leads me into budget items and the built environment, and then I'll close with some regional perspectives. Regarding budget, as we wrap up year end, Service Place was at break even to a slight positive cost recovery operation in 2014. Yes, absolutely. Well, back in 2004, the plebiscite was based on that break-even model. It's taken us 8 years to achieve this or even come close. There have been many doubters, but I'm thrilled to be able to share this publicly today. Service Place has become remarkably successful, in part because it's a community gathering place. When the St. Albert Saints left, it was a community loss, not only losing the hockey team, but the real loss was because it was a removal of community gathering opportunity at Aikinsdale. Also in the built environment category, a possible museum expansion in 2017 another arena in 2019, and a branch library are all to be talked about this year. Our budget shows today an art gallery expansion in 2016, and it was suggested last month in an entertainment survey that a children's museum may very well fit the many needs and fit perfectly with our Cultivating Life brand. Perhaps this is a marriage of several objectives lying in front of us. When the Kinex was built, it was built because simply a rink was needed. But in this day and age, places must be most considerate of community gathering. People want to be with people. On that note, one hopes the Erin Ridge Francophone Alexandre Taché School becomes a gathering place, like the Francophone School is in Heritage Lakes. Opponents of the Francophone School will soon see its value as a neighborhood gathering place. Other key projects and budget comments. For those of you in the maintenance business, the road repair budget will continue in the $7 to $8 million range. The sidewalk program will be aggressive, adding more sidewalks on both sides of St. Albert Trail, as well as upgrading orphan bus stops, as well as 2015 will see an aggressive neighborhood cracked sidewalk repair program. $9 million of water and sewer maintenance is planned, some of that work in the downtown, targeted at reducing the flooding in the Prawn District, which will be the biggest benefiting area. A good news story for Chamber members, although this will require some traffic disruption in that area. Sports fields, parks, and basic repairing of buildings and facilities remains very constant in 2015 compared to 14, with the rebuild of the city-owned historical Juna House, home of the Mitchell Institute, being a large one-off repair in 2015. And will upgrade the drainage in Lions Park, also disrupting activities in that park. New development will pay for additional staff required to serve more kilometers of roads, do the additional inspections needed, and there are more parks to mow, more bus routes to service, and basically keeping up with adding 1,000 residents per year. We will install a new locker room building in Riel Park, another amenity to help host games and events there and bring in more visitors to our community. A special thanks goes to the Chamber for taking on the visitor information role for our community recently. The punching through of St. Anne Street from St. Thomas to where the airplane used to be, between the Grandin Medical Clinic and the courthouse, is planned for 2015. This construction will be a disruption and yet exciting, as it sets the stage for an expanded farmers market, a bigger children's festival venue area, and more, growing the opportunity for more community gathering and maybe someday visiting a children's museum. The 50-plus Club is seeing a massive facelift and expansion in 2015, important for the gathering of older residents. Most of this should be exciting for the community, and for many Chamber members, it's your bread and butter, or it means more customers. Generally, I'm describing modest to solid growth with corresponding expenditures. For transit, in about 2010, the city made a commitment of $10 million to construct a park and ride near Anthony Hendy. 5 years later, we're still waiting for provincial land to do so. They approved a 10-year lease on a piece of their property in the Anthony Hendy corridor. We promptly rejected that idea, rejecting the idea of a 10-year lease. Here we are years later and lots of lobbying on the transfer of excess land to allow for a park and ride in the Hendy corridor, and still no answer. Council set aside $10 million of St. Albert money, and it sits, losing value daily as commuters see inaction. We are soon forced with a fish or cut bait decision. Sadly, this is the north end of the LRT Edmonton line, and we cannot get the province to make a commitment on that land so that we can get on with the park and ride. Now, corporately, we're in outstanding shape. One of the lowest debt per capita cities in the entire province. Money in reserves, much of it earmarked for future projects, is at about $79 million. A very solid and enviable position, meaning money in savings to do what we say we're going to do. City management and city staff are at levels that are very stable. Community satisfaction is an all-time high. Some would say so is traffic, but community satisfaction at an all-time high. The school systems continue to be ranked amongst the best in Alberta in all categories, and the city helps the schools where it can with RCMP liaison work, FCSS, Safe Journeys to School initiatives, and more. Community safety, traffic safety, notwithstanding the Constable Wind tragedy, but safety in general has us in an enviable position in Canada. Outside developer interest in St. Albert is at the highest level I've felt in my time in St. Albert, and the willing developers who have invested in our community are now here. Land titles were transferring in 2014 was a banner year. The not-for-profit sector is in a great position wherever we turn. By the way, one of our Rotary clubs in St. Albert is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Yes, we have some social challenges, but corporately, financially, community-wise, we are poised to do more good work. Now, I always believe that people need to have a sense if the ground is stable or not. People need to have a sense that its council is serving the community based on what we hear. What I have shared is that the ground is very stable. We have no big warts to remove, no disasters to address, and no categories of dire concern. Although I did mention the concern with the park and ride. Finally, regionally. My regional colleagues in this room have been given the unique responsibility to provide leadership within a region that's growing at the rate of 28,000 per year, the data over the last 6 years. In a region where farms are shrinking in numbers and the region is growing at a rate of 250,000 people per decade, there has to be planning. When someone flushes a toilet in St. Albert, it affects the watershed and ends up at a facility near Fort Saskatchewan, and the treated sewage affects the world downstream. But whether it be a cow-calf operation, urban sprawl, or food supply, or the Edmonton Oilers, we are all interconnected. The Capital Region Board works tremendously hard at matters such as regional transportation, regional transit, market affordable housing, senior housing, land planning, geographic information systems, and economic development. We don't work on the Oilers stuff, but maybe we should, yeah, right. Whether it be through small nodes of sub-regional planning for seniors housing or the future of the Villeneuve Airport, it requires diplomacy and collaboration. And in my 10 years on council, our sub-region is now functioning better than ever. An example of the sub-regional spirit is when Morinville just announced 3 weeks ago they were building their new rec center in lands currently in the county. In the capital region as a whole, we should have challenges. After all, if we all agreed on everything, there would be no creativity. And we have a lot more agreements than disagreements in the past 3 years. So I've covered the social pillar, I've covered the environmental pillar and the economic pillar, the 3 pillars of triple bottom line. I've captured some of the key cultivating strategies in our strategic plan, and I've spoken about the great work regionally. I've hit some budget highlights, and I hope that I've left you with a sense of comfort and optimism. I've painted a picture of a spirit of collaboration and optimism together with a spirit of realism. St. Albert is in a good place regionally. St. Albert and Sturgeon are in a great diplomatic position sub-regionally, and our joint strategies are working. St. Albert's relationships with Edmonton, as well as with the business community and region, are as solid as they've ever been. Corporate financial health is splendid, and our staff is stable, and performance is outstanding. We are in a good spot. So on behalf of Council today, I'm proud to say to all of you, and indeed to say all of that to our entire community, and thank you for allowing me.